Jake Morrison stood near the wall of the Great Hall, watching the crowd of aliens and diplomats move around him. He felt uncomfortable in his dress uniform. The jacket was too tight and the formal shoes pinched his feet. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. He belonged on a ship or in the field, not at a fancy party on an alien station. Station Meridian was huge. The ceiling stretched so high above that Jake could barely see it. Lights of every color floated in the air, and strange music played from somewhere he couldn't identify. Aliens of dozens of species walked past him. Some had scales, others had fur, and some looked almost human except for their strange eyes or extra arms. Jake's job was simple. He was part of the security team protecting the human diplomats. Commander Lisa Grant had chosen him personally for this assignment. She said it was an honor, but Jake knew the real reason. The other species didn't respect humans. They thought humans were young and dangerous. Having armed guards visible might make them nervous, so Grant wanted soldiers who could stay calm and look professional. Across the room, Jake noticed a tall alien woman. She had shimmering scales that changed colors in the light from deep purple to silver. Her eyes were golden and bright. She moved with confidence, and other aliens stepped aside to let her pass. A small child walked beside her, holding her hand. The child had the same scales, but in lighter shades of blue and green. "That's Princess Velshara," said a voice next to Jake. He turned to see another Marine, Kyle Chen, standing beside him. "She's from the Talnari species. Very important family. The kid is her daughter," Jake nodded. He had read the briefing files, but seeing these aliens in person was different. The princess looked strong and proud. Her daughter seemed bored, looking around the room with wide eyes that showed more curiosity than interest in the formal speeches happening on the stage. The party continued for another hour. Jake's feet hurt more with each passing minute. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, trying not to look as uncomfortable as he felt. Nothing interesting was happening, just speeches and polite conversation. He started to think the evening would end without incident. Then everything changed. The first explosion came from somewhere above. The entire station shook. The floating lights flickered and went out. For a moment, everything was dark and silent. Then the screaming started. Emergency lights came on, bathing everything in red. Another explosion, closer this time. The floor tilted slightly, and Jake grabbed the wall to keep his balance. Pieces of the ceiling began to fall. People ran in every direction, pushing and shoving to reach the exits. "Terrorist attack," someone shouted. "The Purity Coalition." Jake's training took over. His discomfort disappeared. He pulled out his weapon and started moving toward the human diplomats. He needed to protect them and get them to the evacuation pods. He pushed through the panicking crowd, his eyes scanning for threats. That's when he heard the crash. A massive beam fell from the ceiling, hitting the floor with a sound like thunder. Jake turned and saw the princess's daughter trapped underneath. The beam had missed her completely, but a pile of broken metal and debris had fallen on top of her. She was screaming, a high-pitched sound that cut through all the other noise. Princess Velshara was fighting. 3 attackers in black armor surrounded her. She moved like a dancer, fast and deadly, but there were too many. She couldn't reach her daughter. She kept looking toward the child, her golden eyes wide with fear and anger. Jake made a choice. His orders were to protect the human diplomats. They were his responsibility. But that child was hurt and alone, and her mother couldn't help her. No one else was moving toward her. Everyone was too busy running away or fighting. He ran toward the debris pile. Another explosion rocked the station. The artificial gravity stuttered, making him feel light for a moment before it came back on. He almost fell but caught himself and kept running. When he reached the child, he could see blood. Her leg was crushed under a piece of metal. She looked up at him with those golden eyes, so much like her mother's, and reached out her small hand. She said something in her own language. He didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. "Help me, please." Jake dropped to his knees beside her. He was a combat medic as well as a Marine. He had training for this. He quickly checked her injuries. The leg was bad, very bad. She also had cuts on her side that were bleeding too much. If he didn't stop the bleeding soon, she would die. His hands moved automatically. He pulled medical supplies from his belt. He applied pressure to the worst wounds. He gave her an injection that would help with the pain and shock. He wasn't sure if human medicine would work on her alien body, but he had to try. The child's screaming stopped. She was breathing fast, too fast. Jake knew that was a bad sign. He needed to get her out of here. He looked around for help, but everyone was still running. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see and breathe. Jake made another choice. He carefully lifted the metal beam enough to pull her free. She cried out in pain and he whispered, I know. I'm sorry. But we have to move. He picked her up as gently as he could. She was lighter than he expected. He held her against his chest, protecting her with his body. Another explosion. This one was so close that Jake felt the heat. Something sharp hit his shoulder, sending pain shooting down his arm. He gritted his teeth and kept moving. The evacuation pods were at the end of the hall. Jake ran, ducking under falling debris. Sparks showered down around them. The child buried her face against his chest. He could feel her heart beating fast, too fast. A piece of the wall exploded inward. Jake turned his back to it, shielding the child. Something hit his back hard enough to knock the air from his lungs. But he didn't fall. He couldn't fall. Not while he was carrying her. Finally, he reached the pods. Other people were climbing inside, desperate to escape. Jake pushed his way through. He placed the child carefully on a medical bed inside one of the pods. Blood soaked his uniform, some of it his, most of it hers. Medical emergency, he shouted. I need a doctor now. A Talnari medic rushed over. She looked at the child, then at Jake, then back at the child. She started working immediately, her forehands moving in ways that seemed impossible. Jake stepped back, suddenly feeling dizzy. His shoulder hurt badly now that the rush of action was fading. You saved her, the medic said, not looking up from her work. You are human, yes? Yes, Jake said. Princess Velshara will want to know who did this. The medic's voice was serious. You have done something very important today, human. Jake didn't understand what she meant. He had just done what anyone would do. What anyone should do. He looked down at the small alien child, her scales already looking brighter as the medic worked. She would live. That was all that mattered. Jake sat on a medical bed, staring at the wall. A doctor had cleaned and bandaged his shoulder. The wound wasn't as bad as it felt. The shrapnel had gone through muscle but missed anything important. He would heal in a few weeks, but he couldn't stop thinking about the attack. 15 people had died. Dozens more were injured. The Purity Coalition, a terrorist group that hated humans, had planted bombs all over the station. They wanted to kill human diplomats and anyone who supported human membership in the Galactic Consortium. The door opened. Jake looked up, expecting another doctor. Instead, Princess Velshara walked in. She looked even taller up close. Her scales caught the light, shimmering like water. Her golden eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Jake tried to stand, but she raised a hand. Stay seated. You are injured. Your daughter, Jake said quickly. Is she okay? Something changed in the princess's expression. Her face softened. She will live. The doctors say she will need surgery, but she will recover fully. Because of you. Jake felt relief wash over him. I'm glad. I was worried. You risked your life for her. Velshara stepped closer. You had orders to protect your own people. Yet you chose to save a child you did not know. An alien child. She needed help, Jake said simply. No one else was helping her. I couldn't just leave her there. Velshara was quiet for a long moment. She studied his face as if trying to understand something. In my culture, there is an old tradition. When someone saves a family member's life at risk to their own, they become bound by honor. We call it the life debt. But what you did goes beyond even that. You are not Talnari. You had no obligation to my daughter, yet you chose her life over your own safety. Jake didn't know what to say. He had just done what felt right. I declare you my protector, Velshara said. The word sounded formal, like she was making an official announcement. This is an ancient title among my people. It means you are now part of my household, under my protection, but also bound to serve as my guardian. Do you accept? Jake blinked. I don't understand. What does that mean exactly? It means many things. It means you will leave your ship and join mine. It means you will be part of my family in all but blood. It means you will stand beside me in matters of honor and danger. She paused. It also means my enemies become your enemies. And I have many enemies. I'm a soldier, Jake said slowly. I have duties to my own people. I have already spoken with your commander, Grant. She has agreed to transfer you to my service. The decision is yours, but she believes this will be good for relations between our peoples. Jake's mind raced. This was crazy. He had just saved a child. Now he was being asked to leave everything he knew and join an alien family. But when he thought about walking away, about never seeing that little girl again, something in his chest tightened. "Can I see her first? Your daughter?" Velshara's expression softened again. "Of course. Follow me." They walked through the medical bay. Other injured people lay in beds being treated by doctors from various species. Jake noticed how people stared at Velshara as she passed. Some looked respectful. Others looked angry or afraid. He wondered what kind of life he was stepping into. The child lay in a private room. Machines beeped softly around her. Her leg was wrapped in some kind of glowing bandage. When she saw Jake, her eyes went wide. She said something in her language. "She says you are her shield bearer," Velshara translated. "The one who carried her through fire." Jake approached the bed. The girl reached out her hand and he took it gently. Her small fingers wrapped around his larger ones. She smiled, and despite everything, Jake smiled back. "What's her name?" he asked. "Kira," Velshara said softly. "It means bright star in our language." "Hello, Kira," Jake said. He didn't know if she understood English, but she seemed to understand the tone. She squeezed his hand tighter. Jake made his decision. "I accept. I'll be your protector." 3 days later, Jake stood in the docking bay of his new home. The Crimson Valor was a Talnari diplomatic vessel. It was smaller than the human ships he was used to, but more elegant. Everything seemed designed with beauty in mind, not just function. The crew watched him board with suspicious eyes. He was the first human to ever step foot on this ship. He was the first human to ever hold the title of protector. Some of the Talnari warriors looked at him with open contempt. Others seemed merely curious. Velshara showed him to his quarters. The room was strange. The bed was too hard. The walls were covered in symbols he couldn't read. The air smelled different, like metal and flowers mixed together. "This will be difficult," Velshara said. "My people are proud. Many will see you as a sign of weakness. They will say I named a human as protector because I could find no worthy Talnari." "Are they right?" Jake asked. She looked at him sharply. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile. "No. I named you protector because you have something my people have forgotten. You acted without thinking of honor or politics. You simply saw someone who needed help and helped them. That is the truest form of strength." Over the next few weeks, Jake learned about Talnari culture. It was complicated. There were rules for everything. How to greet someone based on their rank. How to eat at formal meals. How to stand and speak in the presence of superiors. Jake made mistakes constantly. Some of the crew laughed at him. Others corrected him with barely hidden annoyance. But Velshara was patient. She taught him their language. She explained their history. She told him about the great houses of the Talnari and the complex politics that governed their society. Her house, House Veltorin, was ancient but declining in power. Other houses were trying to take their place. "That is why naming you protector was controversial," she explained one evening. They were in her private office. Kira was there too, coloring pictures on a digital tablet. Some see it as a desperate move. Others see it as innovative. Either way, it has put a target on both our backs. "What kind of target?" Jake asked. "There are those who want humanity kept out of the consortium. They see your species as dangerous, barbaric. They fear what humans might do if given equal status with older civilizations." She looked at him seriously. There was a reason the Purity Coalition attacked Station Meridian. They wanted to create an incident that would justify excluding humanity forever. Jake felt cold. "You think there will be more attacks?" "I know there will be, and some of them will be aimed at me because I have shown support for humanity by naming you protector." That night, Jake lay in his too-hard bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about his old life, his friends on the horizon's edge, the familiar routines of military service. Everything had been simple then. Follow orders, protect your squad, do your job. Now everything was complicated. He was part of an alien family. He was in the middle of galactic politics he barely understood. He had enemies he had never met who wanted him dead just because he was human. But then he thought about Kira. She had started following him around the ship, asking questions in broken English she was learning. She showed him her drawings. She laughed at his attempts to pronounce Talnari words. She had called him her shield bearer, and the title felt more real than any rank he had ever held. Jake made a promise to himself. He would learn everything he needed to learn. He would become worthy of the title Velshara had given him. He would protect this family that had taken him in, even if it cost him everything. He didn't know that his promise would be tested sooner than he thought. The package arrived during breakfast. Jake was trying to eat a Talnari meal that looked like purple soup, but tasted like spicy chicken. Kira sat across from him, teaching him words in her language. She would point at things and say the Talnari word, then laugh when Jake tried to repeat it. A crew member brought in a small box wrapped in silver cloth. "For Princess Velshara," he said, bowing before placing it on the table. Velshara reached for it, but Jake's hand shot out. "Wait," everyone at the table froze. The crew member looked offended. Velshara raised an eyebrow. "What is wrong?" Jake didn't know how to explain it. Something about the package felt wrong. As a combat medic, he had trained to recognize chemical weapons. His nose had become sensitive to certain smells, and this box, even wrapped, had a faint odor that made his instincts scream danger. "Let me check it first," Jake said. He carefully picked up the box, brought it close to his face, and inhaled. There. That smell, sharp and bitter, like almonds mixed with metal. "This is poisoned." "Don't touch it," the room erupted. Guards rushed in. Velshara stood, her face hard. The box was taken away for analysis. 2 hours later, the results came back. The wrapping cloth was soaked in a toxin deadly to Talnari. Anyone who touched it would have died within minutes. "How did you know?" Velshara asked Jake privately. "I smelled it. Humans have sensitive noses compared to some species. We use that in combat to detect chemical weapons." She looked at him with something like wonder. "You saved my life again." "That's my job now," Jake said, but his hands were shaking. Someone had tried to kill her, and they had done it from inside the ship. That meant there was a traitor among the crew. The investigation lasted for days. Everyone was questioned. Security was increased, but no one could find who had brought the poisoned package aboard. Velshara became quieter, more cautious. Jake could see the stress in the way she held herself. Then, 2 weeks after the poison attempt, a formal challenge arrived. Velshara called Jake to her office. Her face was grim. "A warrior named Korath has challenged your right to be my protector. He invokes the ancient law of trial by combat." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What does that mean?" "It means you must fight him. In front of witnesses. If you lose, you must leave my service. If you refuse to fight, my honor is damaged." She paused. "And if you lose badly enough, you could die." "Can't you just refuse the challenge?" "No, the law is clear. Any warrior can challenge a protector to test their worthiness. It is an old tradition, rarely used. But it is still valid." She looked angry. "Korath is from House Talgoroth, rivals to my house. They sent him to humiliate us." Jake had seen Talnari warriors train. They were incredibly strong and fast. Their scales were natural armor. They had been bred for combat over thousands of years. He was just a human. Stronger than average for his species, well-trained but still human. "I can't beat him," Jake said honestly. "No," Velshara agreed. "In raw strength you cannot. But the trial is not just about strength. It is about showing courage and skill worthy of a protector. You do not have to win. You have to prove you deserve the title." She began training him. Every morning before dawn, they went to the ship's training room. She taught him how Talnari warriors moved, how they thought in combat. She showed him their techniques, their traditional strikes and blocks. "Your human flexibility is an advantage," she said. "Talnari are strong but not as flexible. Use that. Move in ways he does not expect." Jake learned quickly. His military training helped. But more than that, he was motivated by something deeper. He had a family now. Kira would watch the fight. If he showed cowardice or weakness, it would shame Velshara. He couldn't let that happen. Kira brought him a small charm one evening. It was a piece of polished stone carved with symbols. "Warriors carry these," she said in careful English. "For protection. For courage." Jake tied it around his wrist. "Thank you, Bright Star." She hugged him fiercely. "Don't lose. I'll try my best," he promised. The trial took place on a neutral station. The arena was circular with smooth floors and high walls. Hundreds of aliens came to watch. Some supported Velshara. Most wanted to see the human fail. Jake could hear them talking as he entered the arena. "A human protector, ridiculous. He will last 30 seconds. This proves House Veltorin has fallen." Jake blocked out the voices. He focused on his breathing, on staying calm. He wore light armor that allowed him to move freely. Korath entered from the opposite side. The Talnari warrior was massive. He stood at least 7 feet tall, his scales dark blue and thick. His muscles rippled as he walked. He carried a traditional Talnari blade, curved and sharp. Jake had a similar weapon, but it felt strange in his hands. He was used to guns, not swords. An elder stepped forward to announce the rules. This is a trial of honor. The fight continues until one warrior yields or cannot continue. Killing is permitted but not required. Begin when the bell sounds. Jake looked up to where Velshara sat with Kira. The princess's face showed no emotion, but Kira waved at him. He waved back, then turned to face Korath. The bell rang. Korath charged immediately. He was fast, much faster than Jake expected. The blade came down in a powerful strike that would have split Jake in half. Jake rolled to the side, barely avoiding it. The blade hit the floor with a sound like thunder. Jake tried to counter, but Korath's scales deflected his strike easily. The warrior laughed. You fight like a child. Velshara has chosen poorly. They circled each other. Korath attacked again and again. Each strike was powerful and precise. Jake dodged and blocked, but he was getting tired. His arms ached from blocking blows that felt like being hit with metal bars. The crowd was cheering for Korath now. Even some who had supported Velshara seemed convinced Jake would lose. He could see disappointment on their faces. Jake's foot slipped. He went down on one knee. Korath's blade came at his head. Jake rolled backward and the blade missed by inches. But now his back was against the wall. Korath stood over him, blade raised. Yield, Korath said. You are brave but foolish. Accept defeat with honor. Jake thought about yielding. His body screamed at him to stop. But then he thought about Kira's charm on his wrist. He thought about Velshara, who had trusted him. He thought about all the people saying humans didn't belong in the consortium. No, Jake said. He used the wall behind him to push off, launching himself at Korath. The move was unexpected. Talnari warriors didn't do that. Jake's shoulder hit Korath in the chest, and for the first time, the big warrior stumbled backward. Jake didn't try to match Korath's strength anymore. Instead, he moved like water. When Korath struck high, Jake went low. When Korath expected a block, Jake dodged. He used every dirty trick he had learned in human military combat. He threw dust in Korath's eyes. He struck at joints between scales. He moved in ways no Talnari would move. The crowd went silent. This wasn't how their warriors fought. But it was working. Korath was getting frustrated. He made mistakes, attacking with anger instead of precision. Jake saw his opening. When Korath swung too wide, Jake ducked under the blade and swept the warrior's legs. Korath fell hard. Jake's blade was at his throat before he could recover. The arena was completely silent. Then Korath did something unexpected. He laughed. Enough. You have proven yourself, human. Jake stepped back, lowering his weapon. He was shaking with exhaustion. Korath stood, brushing dust from his scales. You do not fight like a Talnari, Korath said loudly so everyone could hear. But you fight with the spirit of one. You refuse to yield even when defeat seemed certain. That is the mark of a true warrior. He turned to face Velshara. Princess, your protector is worthy. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Others argued. But the trial was over. Jake had won not through strength but through determination and skill. Velshara came down to the arena floor. She looked at Jake with pride. Well done, protector. Jake could barely stand. Did I really win? You did better than win. You showed them what humans are capable of. She helped support him as they left the arena. Now the real work begins. News of Jake's trial spread across the galaxy like fire. Some praised him. Others said he had cheated by not fighting like a proper warrior. But everyone was talking about the human who had earned his place as a Talnari protector. 3 weeks later, Velshara received a summons from the Consortium Council. They wanted her to testify about human-Talnari relations. It was supposed to be a routine hearing, but Jake knew better. Nothing about politics was ever routine. They will attack you, Commander Grant told Jake through a secure communication. She had contacted him privately. Ambassador Kroven has been working against humanity for months. He will use this hearing to argue that humans are dangerous and shouldn't be allowed into the consortium. What can I do? Jake asked. Tell the truth. Show them that humans can be trusted, and watch Velshara's back. Kroven is ruthless. The day of the hearing arrived. The Consortium Council chamber was the largest room Jake had ever seen. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Representatives from hundreds of species filled those seats. The noise of so many different voices speaking so many different languages was overwhelming. Jake stood beside Velshara on the central platform. He wore his full dress uniform. His shoulder still ached sometimes from the injury at Station Meridian, but he stood straight and proud. Velshara wore formal robes that shimmered with her house colors. Ambassador Croven stood across from them. He was reptilian with green scales and cold eyes. He looked at Jake like something unpleasant he had stepped in. "We are here to discuss the matter of human integration into the consortium," an elder council member announced. "Ambassador Croven has raised concerns." Croven stepped forward. His voice was smooth and confident. "Thank you, honored council. I come before you with a heavy heart. The humans are a young species, violent, unpredictable. They have barely achieved faster-than-light travel, yet they push to join our ancient consortium." He showed images on the large screens around the chamber. Human wars, destroyed cities, weapons being tested. Look at their history. They fight among themselves constantly. They have nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times, and now we want to welcome them into our peaceful society? Some council members nodded. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but Velshara's hand on his arm reminded him to stay calm. "But there is more," Croven continued. "Princess Velshara of the Talnari has taken a human as her protector. This is not just unusual. It is dangerous. She has allowed human influence into one of our most ancient and honored houses. Who knows what secrets this human has learned? What intelligence he has gathered?" He pointed at Jake. "This human, Jake Morrison, is a soldier, a warrior trained to kill. He has been given access to Talnari military vessels, to diplomatic communications, to sensitive information. And we are supposed to believe this is innocent?" The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species shouted support for Croven. Others argued against him. The noise was deafening. Finally, the elder called for silence. "Princess Velshara, you may respond." Velshara stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. "Ambassador Croven speaks of human violence. Yes, humans have a violent history, but so do we all. The Talnari were warlords for thousands of years. The Velkari, Croven's own species, nearly destroyed 3 other civilizations in territorial wars. Every species in this chamber has blood in their past." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But we measure a species not by their worst moments, but by their capacity to grow beyond them. Humans have shown that capacity." Velshara told the story of Station Meridian. She described how Jake had saved Kira, risking his life for an alien child he didn't know. "This human had orders to protect his own people. He had every reason to leave my daughter and run to safety, but he didn't. He chose to help someone different from himself, someone he had never met, because it was the right thing to do." Some of the council members who had been hostile looked thoughtful now. "Ambassador Croven wants you to fear humans," Velshara continued, "but I have lived with one for months. I have watched him struggle to learn our language and customs. I have seen him treat my daughter with kindness. I have witnessed his honor firsthand. He is not a spy or a threat. He is a bridge between our peoples," Croven laughed. It was a cold sound. "Beautiful words, princess. But words do not change facts. Humans are expansionist and aggressive. They will not be satisfied with a small place in the consortium. They will want more. They will take more." "Then let me speak," Jake said. Everyone turned to look at him. The elder council member frowned. "This is highly irregular. Protectors do not address the council." "Then make an exception," Jake said. "You're talking about my species. I should be allowed to defend them." The elder looked at Velshara, who nodded. "Very well. Speak, human." Jake stepped forward. His heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. "Ambassador Croven is right about some things. Humans have made mistakes. Big ones. We've fought wars. We've damaged our planet. We've done things we're not proud of." He could see surprise on some faces. They had expected him to deny everything. "But you know what those mistakes taught us? They taught us that violence doesn't solve problems. That differences don't have to mean conflict. That protecting others is more important than protecting yourself." He looked directly at Croven. "You say humans are aggressive. Maybe we are. But we're aggressive in protecting those who can't protect themselves, in standing up for what's right even when it's hard." Jake touched the charm on his wrist, the one Kira had given him. "I didn't save Princess Velshara's daughter because I wanted something from her. I saved her because she was hurt and scared and needed help. That's what humans do. We help, even when it costs us. Even when it's dangerous. Inspiring words, Croven said mockingly. But I have proof that humans cannot be trusted. He pressed a button and new images appeared. These are classified human military communications. They show plans for weapon development, for fleet expansion, for establishing military bases in neutral sectors. Jake felt cold. Those documents were real. He had seen some of them. They were legitimate military planning. But Croven was presenting them as if humans were preparing for conquest. Where did you get those? Velshara demanded. Those are classified documents. You have no right to them. I obtained them through proper intelligence channels, Croven said smoothly. They prove what I have been saying. Humans are preparing for war. That's not true, Jake said. Every species has military plans. It's called being prepared. It doesn't mean we want war. Can you prove that? Croven challenged. Can you prove that humanity's intentions are peaceful? Jake was about to answer when Commander Grant's voice suddenly came through the chamber's communication system. I can. Everyone looked up in surprise. Grant's face appeared on the screens. Honored Council, I am Commander Lisa Grant of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. I apologize for the interruption, but I have information relevant to this hearing. This is most irregular, the Elder said, but he didn't stop her. We have been investigating the attack on Station Meridian, Grant said. We have discovered who funded it. The Purity Coalition received money and resources from sources within the consortium itself. She paused dramatically, specifically from accounts controlled by Ambassador Croven. The chamber exploded. Everyone was shouting. Croven's face went pale, then red. This is a lie! A human trick. We have the financial records, Grant said calmly. We have communications. We have testimony from captured Purity Coalition members. Ambassador Croven funded the attack himself. His goal was to create an incident that would turn the consortium against humanity. Council security moved toward Croven. He tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Within minutes, he was in custody, still shouting that it was all lies. The Elder Council member looked shaken. This is unprecedented. We will need to investigate these claims fully, but if they are true, Ambassador Croven has committed crimes against the consortium itself. The hearing was postponed while investigators examined Grant's evidence. Jake and Velshara returned to the Crimson Valor. Jake felt drained. Do you think they'll believe us? He asked. The evidence is strong, Velshara said. But more importantly, you showed them who humans really are. Not through weapons or threats, but through honesty and courage. 2 days later, the council reconvened. The investigation had confirmed Grant's evidence. Croven had indeed funded the attack. More than that, the investigation uncovered a conspiracy involving several species who wanted to keep humanity out of the consortium. The Elder made an announcement. The Council has voted. Humanity will be granted provisional membership in the consortium. There will be a probationary period, but humans are now officially part of our society. The chamber erupted in applause and argument, but it was done. Humanity had earned its place. Velshara looked at Jake with pride. You did it. We did it, Jake corrected. Together. 6 months had passed since the council hearing. Jake stood at the window of his quarters looking out at the stars. They didn't seem as strange anymore. Space had become his home. The Crimson Valor was heading to the Talnari homeworld. Velshara had been summoned by her house elders. They wanted to formally recognize Jake's position as protector in a traditional ceremony. It would be the first time in history that a non-Talnari received such an honor. Are you nervous? Kira asked. She stood beside him, much taller now than she had been 6 months ago. Her leg had healed completely. The doctor said she wouldn't even have a scar. A little, Jake admitted. Your planet is important to your mother. I don't want to embarrass her, Kira laughed. You won't. Everyone knows what you did. You're a hero. Jake didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a soldier who had gotten lucky. But he had learned not to argue with Kira. She was stubborn, just like her mother. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Talnari homeworld appeared ahead of them. It was beautiful. The planet was mostly blue and green, with 3 small moons orbiting around it. Cities sparkled on the surface like jewels. Welcome home, Velshara said, coming to stand beside them. She looked different, more relaxed, happier than Jake had seen her before. The last 6 months had been busy. Humanity's provisional membership in the consortium, meant more work for everyone. Human ships now participated in joint operations with other species. Trade agreements were being negotiated. Cultural exchanges were happening. And through it all, Jake had been there serving as Velshara's protector and advisor. They had faced challenges. Not everyone was happy about humanity joining the consortium. There had been protests, some minor incidents. A few species had refused to work with humans at all. But slowly, gradually, things were improving. Jake had changed too. He spoke Talnari fluently now. He understood their customs and culture. He had made friends among the crew, warriors who had initially distrusted him but had grown to respect him. He had found a place in this strange new life. The Crimson Valor landed at the main spaceport of Veltoran City, the capital of the Talnari homeworld. As they walked down the landing ramp, Jake saw crowds of people waiting. Some held signs supporting Velshara. Others looked curious. A few looked openly hostile. "Stay close," Velshara murmured. "Not everyone is happy about this ceremony." They traveled to the House Veltoran compound in a transport vehicle. The compound was ancient, built from stone that had stood for thousands of years. Gardens surrounded it, filled with plants that glowed softly in the evening light. It was more beautiful than any place Jake had ever seen. That night there was a formal dinner. Jake sat beside Velshara at a long table. Dozens of Talnari nobles were present, all wearing elaborate robes and jewelry. They studied Jake with open curiosity. Some asked him questions about Earth and humanity. Others ignored him completely. An elderly Talnari woman sat across from Jake. Her scales were almost white with age. "I am Elder Shalvara," she said. I knew Velshara's grandmother. I watched Velshara grow up. She looked at Jake intently. "Tell me, human, why did you accept the title of protector? Surely you knew it would be difficult." Jake thought about his answer carefully. "I accepted because it was the right thing to do. Princess Velshara offered me a place in her family. How could I refuse that?" "Many would refuse," Shalvara said. "The title comes with great responsibility. You gave up your old life, your own people, to serve aliens." "Why?" "I didn't give up my people," Jake said. "I'm still human. I still care about humanity. But I learned that caring about your own people doesn't mean you can't care about others too." Kira needed help. Velshara offered me a chance to be part of something bigger than myself. I took it. Shalvara was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You have wisdom beyond your years, human. Perhaps you do deserve the honor you are about to receive." The ceremony took place the next day. It was held in an ancient temple at the heart of the compound. The walls were carved with scenes from Talnari history. Hundreds of candles provided light, making everything glow softly. Jake wore formal robes that Velshara had given him. They were blue and silver, the colors of House Veltoran. He felt awkward in them, but Kira had assured him he looked proper. The temple was full of people. Not just Talnari, but representatives from other species too. Jake saw Commander Grant in the crowd wearing her dress uniform. She gave him a small nod. Velshara stood at the center of the temple with her house elders. Jake approached and knelt before them as he had been taught. The eldest spoke in the old language, words that Jake had studied but barely understood. They were ancient, formal, sacred. Then Velshara spoke. "Jake Morrison came to us as a stranger. He saved my daughter's life at great risk to his own. He has served House Veltoran with honor and courage. He has proven himself worthy of the title protector not once but many times. Today we make his place in our house permanent. Today he becomes truly one of us." She placed her hand on Jake's shoulder. The elders did the same. Jake felt the weight of their hands, the weight of tradition and history and expectation. But he also felt acceptance, welcome, family. "Rise, Jake Morrison of House Veltoran," Velshara said. "Rise as a true member of our house. Rise as protector. Rise as family." Jake stood. The crowd erupted in applause. Some cheered. Others simply clapped politely. But it was done. He was officially part of House Veltoran now, the first alien ever to receive such recognition. Kira ran up to him and hugged him tightly. "I told you it would be fine," she said, laughing. That evening there was a celebration. Music played. People danced. Food was served. Jake found himself talking with aliens from a dozen different species. Some had heard about him and wanted to know more about humans. Others were interested in forming similar partnerships with human soldiers or diplomats. Commander Grant pulled him aside. "You've started something, you know. Other species are reaching out to us. They want to know more about humanity. Some want to establish programs like what you and Velshara have. You've become a symbol. I don't want to be a symbol, Jake said. I just want to do my job. Grant smiled. Too late? You've shown the galaxy that humans belong here, that we can work with other species, that we're not the dangerous barbarians some people thought we were. That matters, Jake. That changes things. Later, Jake found himself on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Velshara joined him. Are you happy with your choice? She asked. Do you regret leaving your old life behind? Jake thought about it. He missed some things. His friends on the horizon's edge, Earth food. The simplicity of military life where orders were clear and missions were straightforward. But when he weighed that against what he had gained, there was no contest. I don't regret it, he said. I found something here I didn't know I was looking for. Purpose, family, a place where I belong. You have taught us as much as we have taught you, Velshara said. You showed my people that strength comes in many forms. That honor is not just about following tradition, but about doing what is right. That differences can be a source of strength rather than division. We learned from each other, Jake said. That's what makes this work. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights come on as darkness fell. Kira came running out, excited about something she had seen inside. She grabbed both their hands, pulling them back to the celebration. Jake followed, smiling. This was his life now. Strange and complicated and sometimes difficult, but also rich and meaningful in ways his old life had never been. He was part of something bigger than himself. He was helping to build bridges between species. He was making a difference. A week later, Jake received a message from Commander Grant. We need you for a mission, she said. A joint task force is being formed to deal with piracy in the outer sectors. They want Velshara to lead it, and they specifically requested you as liaison between human and alien forces. Jake looked at Velshara, who had been listening. What do you think? I think it is what we trained for, she said. A chance to show that humans and Talnari can work together. That cooperation between species is possible. Then we do it, Jake said. The mission was important. A group of pirates had been attacking trade ships in remote space. They claimed to be freedom fighters, but they were hurting innocent people. The consortium wanted them stopped, but the situation was delicate. The pirates had support from some marginalized species who felt the consortium had failed them. The task force assembled at a military station. Jake met the other members. There were Talnari warriors, human marines, representatives from half a dozen other species. Some were friendly, others were suspicious, but they all had the same mission. Velshara gave a briefing. We are not just here to fight. We are here to find solutions. If we can resolve this peacefully, we will. But we will protect innocent lives above all else. They tracked the pirates to a remote system where a refugee convoy was under attack. The ships were filled with families fleeing war in their home systems. The pirates had surrounded them, demanding supplies and money. We need to move fast, one of the human marines said. Those people are running out of time. We should negotiate first, an alien diplomat argued. Fighting will only make things worse, Jake spoke up. We do both. We approach them with an offer to talk, but we position our forces to act if negotiations fail. We give them a chance to surrender peacefully, but we're ready to protect those refugees if we have to. Velshara nodded. Jake is right. Prepare for both scenarios. Jake volunteered to lead the negotiation team. It was risky, but he had experience dealing with difficult situations. Plus, as a human protector of a Talnari house, he represented exactly what the pirates feared and what the refugees hoped for: cooperation between species. The negotiation was tense. The pirate leader was bitter and angry. He told stories of how the consortium had ignored his people's suffering, how they had been pushed to the margins while richer species prospered. Jake listened. He acknowledged their pain. He didn't make excuses or try to minimize their grievances. You're right, Jake said. The consortium hasn't been fair to everyone. Some species have been treated better than others. That's wrong, but attacking innocent refugees doesn't fix it. It just creates more suffering. Then what should we do? The pirate leader demanded. Just accept our fate? Continue to be ignored? No, Jake said. Fight for change. But fight the right way. We'll help you. Humanity is new to the consortium. We know what it's like to be outsiders. Let us advocate for you. Let us help make your voices heard. But let these refugees go. They're not your enemy. Most of the pirates agreed. They surrendered peacefully. A few refused and had to be stopped by force, but the battle was brief. The refugees were saved, and Jake had kept his promise. They would bring the pirates' grievances to the council, pushing for reforms that would help marginalized species. On the flight back, Velshara sat beside Jake. You did well today. You found a solution that saved lives and addressed the root problem. That is true strength, Jake smiled. I learned from the best. He looked out at the stars, feeling content. This was his life now. Complicated, challenging, sometimes dangerous, but meaningful. He was making a difference. He was showing the galaxy that humans belonged among the stars, not through conquest or force, but through compassion, creativity, and courage. He was Jake Morrison, human, marine, protector, bridge between species. And he wouldn't change it for anything.